Kansas City, Missouri, what is good? It is a delight to finally be in your city, the #1 city that came up the most when I had announced tour announcements and people would go, "No, Kansas City!" I am finally here and glad to be bringing you, yes, Kansas City. I've already passed a Travis Kelce mural. I've already heard about various Taylor Swift things. The full alpha and omega of Kansas City. I tried to order barbecue. It didn't work. The whole thing got canceled. We've got another order coming. It'll arrive during the show. I'll eat it during intermission and become super powered. The Kansas City running in my veins. We'll figure it out. So I'm very excited to be here. Very excited for our show. Let's get into that T&O portion by welcoming our guest, because I'm never on this quest alone. I'm always joined by a very special guest, and this is someone who you have heard on the podcast, and you have, I can only imagine, loved on the podcast, traveling here today, and I'm so excited to do the show with him. Make some noise for one of my past roommates and one of my closest friends. It's Michael Hollis! All right, T.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hi, friends. Oh, so many.
You were in a different state not many hours ago.
Yes.
How was that?
That's how planes work.
I guess what I mean more is that the joy of it is that your flight wasn't long, so you could take one later in the day.
Yes.
Whereas I had to take a train all the way from St. Louis to get here. But fun fact, at 1:35 in the morning today, I got a cool text message from Amtrak. And this text message said, due to missing parts, your train has been canceled. Instead, we will provide you with a bus service. And I was like, what does that mean? But it actually ended up working out even better, because they ended up having 2 buses, and they were like, one will make all the stops, and one will go straight to Kansas City, stopping at one other place. I don't even remember the other place. I was just like, Kansas City, let's go. So I went to Kansas City via bus instead of train. It's fine. We're here. Huzzah!
Where were you coming from this morning?
St. Louis, Missouri, which is on the other side of Missouri. And now we're on this side of Missouri. Cool. Here we are. I know very little about
corner.
Yep, But here we are in Kansas City, which is in Missouri, but is also in Kansas, but also is not in Kansas. Oh.
Okay, but right now, which state are we in?
We're in Missouri.
Okay, thank you.
All right, but anyway, Percy Jackson. So we're going to cover chapters 34 through 36 of The Mark of Athena. Now, where we last left our hero, singular, Annabeth, had crawled down into what is likely to be Arachne's lair. Has not been confirmed yet.
Spoilers. Fall down your own trapdoor.
But we begin with chapter 34, which is called Annabeth. We'll obviously retitle it. So it opens with, quote, as Annabeth hung in the air, descending hand over hand with the ladder swinging wildly. She had just made the makeshift ladder. She thanked Chiron for all those years of training on the climbing course at Camp Half-Blood. She'd complained loudly and often that rope climbing would never help her defeat a monster. Chiron had just smiled, like he knew this day would come. And you know what?
Because he did.
Yes!
Because he read the book already.
I wrote in my notes, he probably did. So Annabeth then reaches the bottom. She gets her feet soaked because she jumps and lands in like a shallow little canal. And she sees ceramic pipes all down the canal. She guesses that these are drains, that they are part of an ancient Roman plumbing system, which they were known for doing. And she's pleasantly surprised that such an old tunnel system would survive. But then she gets a chilling thought, because it reminds her of the labyrinth. And when DEADalus died, when he became DEADalus, the labyrinth was destroyed. But then she wonders, maybe that was just in the US. Maybe this is an older version of the maze. Maybe the labyrinth can reform like monsters. So she's having a whole bunch of trains of thought with this new area.
You do have to wonder how much of it is Rick going, I spent this whole series navigating how I get these kids like all across the world. What if I just bring the labyrinth back so they can just like sneak from place to place? Wouldn't that be convenient?
That is far. I didn't even think of it in the context of like, if it was back, they wouldn't need to do all these shenanigans to get to Rome with all the flying in the boats and the Mare Nostrum? I wonder, because they got to make their way to Greece in books 4 and or 5. But those aren't that far apart, or you got to have like an elaborate tunnel system. No. But she's wondering all sorts of stuff. When she thinks that it could reform like monsters, narrator Annabeth says, quote, "That would make sense. It was like an archetypal force, as Chiron would say, something that could never really die." But then she has another oh no thought that she does not detail as the narrator. I would assume that is her getting closer to the guess that this is going to be Arachne's lair. It just feels like it makes a lot of sense. Annabeth doesn't want to assume that the directions she's been given are accurate, so she ties a ball of string to the rope ladder and just like, well, allegory, thy name is Annabeth. Look at me reliving the myth.
I don't know if it's just the like ADHD with slight dyslexia, but always getting Arachne and Ariadne confused because like they're both string related.
Oh.
Like, she had the string, she like weaves with thread and whatnot.
Oh, right. Wow.
But like otherwise very different characters, I assume.
No. Yeah, she's right now. That was the Ariadne thing.
Yeah. She exploring the labyrinth.
Right.
With the string.
Yes. Cool. No, I had definitely
Names.
I had definitely put them in my brain where I was just like, oh right, Arachne went through the labyrinth and then turned into a spider at the end. No. Wow. Oh. I was too mean to Annabeth in the last episode. Because Arachne has nothing to do with the labyrinth. But she. Oh, but wait. But. No. I was me. I was correctly mean to Annabeth.
But like spiders.
Because Arachne, before turning into the spider, was a whole big weaver, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The weaver.
Sweet. Okay. I was properly mean to Annabeth last episode.
Did she also like have dreams of spiders?
Sure.
Like the foreshadowing.
Right. I was briefly too mean to her right now when I said, well, allegory, thy name is Annabeth, because I put the two together. But no, okay, cool, great, yes. But now labyrinth stuff makes sense. But also doing the Ariadne trick is smart here. So there's a fork in her path. Thankfully, a mark of Athena burns on one side, so she knows which path to follow. As narrator Annabeth, she says, quote,
Book title.
Oh, the amount of times they say mark of Athena in this could only rival the amount of times the first movie said the lightning thief in it. Narrator Annabeth says, Annabeth could swear it was glaring at her with those big fiery eyes as if to say, what's your problem? Hurry up! She was really starting to hate that owl. So her first spool of yarn finishes as she reaches the spot, so she begins to tie a new one and notices a broken section of the brickwork up ahead, and it looks like someone took a sledgehammer to it. She pokes her head in. She sees a lower chamber with a mosaic floor and painted walls and benches, and it is shaped like a subway car, which is an interesting way to say a rectangle? I'm assuming like the interior layout is like subway car-esque, but it's shaped like a subway car was
like
a weird.
like a brick. Yeah. And a Lego brick.
So there's a bricked off doorway at the closer end of the room, and then there's an altar-looking table at the farther end of the room. Though the tunnel continues, Annabeth is convinced that she should go through this hole. She remembers Tiberinus telling her to, quote, find the altar of the foreign god, and she sees no exits in that room. And I wrote in my notes, for now, but we'll see if exits appear. But then she thinks that she could climb back out this hole if need be. Okay, yeah, sure. Obviously, I didn't think that. I thought when she did this, I was like, yeah, that sounds smart. Annabeth doesn't want to spend too long in this room as the support beams above look like they could give out at any minute. The mosaic on the floor has 7 images in a row, like they are telling a story. There's a raven, then there's a lion, then there are Roman warriors with weapons, and then the final images are too damaged to decipher, which is interesting. At first when there was 7, I was like, the 7? But then none of the images really seemed to make sense, so I wasn't feeling it. But like Raven, I was like, Hazel. And then it was like Lion. And immediately I was like, never mind. Yes. Yeah, I wasn't feeling it. So then narrator Annabeth says, quote, the walls were painted with scenes of a banquet, a robed man with a curved cap like an ice cream scoop, sitting next to a larger guy who radiated sunbeams. Standing around them were torchbearers and servants, and various animals like crows and lions wandered in the background. Annabeth wasn't sure what the picture represented, but it didn't remind her of any Greek legends that she knew. So I figured this had to be something Roman, but I was wrong. Now, there's a frieze behind the altar where Ice Cream Scoop Hat Man has a knife to the neck of a bull. And on the altar is a stone figure of a man on his knees with a torch and a dagger in his outstretched hands. Annabeth has no clue what's going on here. And I was wondering, like, is this some sort of telling of the Minotaur with the bull in there? I was like, is that what's going on? I don't know. And then I was wondering, is this some sort of like altar to Bacchus? Annabeth steps towards the altar and accidentally steps into a human ribcage. And the floor, which Annabeth could have sworn was clear before, she now sees that it is littered with bones.
Sorry, steps into a human ribcage would be a very different image.
I guess when I say step into, I would just mean like
crunch down on. Yeah.
Sure. But like,
I just had the picture of
she walks into. Yeah. I guess I was saying like the foot, like when you step into a puddle, because you would step into a puddle, right? Not onto a puddle.
I don't know. We can move on now.
I do like, whoa, wow. It's like when you go to a museum and it's the giant heart, but it's, a ribcage. What happened? But yes, crunches down into a human ribcage. Floor is filled with them, with bones and skeletons. And also there's a corroded bronze dagger that looks much like hers. So she thinks, okay, my siblings. Now, farther down the path is a newer-looking skeleton dressed in burned Renaissance garb, and Annabeth realizes that this must be some sort of test. So she out loud states that she will not become a skeleton on this floor. And then a watery voice replies, what does it mean when a voice is watery? Like, as if like
sorry, podcast people. I just shrugged.
Like I don't know, a watery voice, like. Whoa.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
This is going great.
This is going to work out really well. I would imagine the podcast people could put together that I put water in my mouth. So, a watery voice replies, quote, a girl. Girls are not allowed. And then a second goes, a female demigod, inexcusable. That's not the vibe you're looking for. I don't want that. Ugh, I don't like these people. The chamber rumbles. Dust falls from the ceiling. Annabeth heads for the hole that she used to enter, but it's gone, and her string has snapped. She pounds the wall where the hole was, hoping that it's an illusion, but the wall seems solid. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 indeed.
So is the implication that this is the first time that Athena sent a daughter?
Oh, maybe.
Or do they just like freak out from any daughter? And like she isn't necessarily the first female that has tried. They're just like, girl.
I think it's probably the latter. I think they probably just freak out every single time. Cool. That would be my thought. Here's a quick question, because it came up in the last one. They had finally the singular of these purple ghosts, and they said Lar. L-A-R. So is the plural not layers? Is it Lars?
Larry's.
Larry's? Okay.
That would be my guess.
And then a single one, is it Lar or Lair with an L-A-R?
That I don't know.
Does anyone know?
I did not take Latin.
Anyone in the crowd know?
The audiobook say Lar.
Okay, the audiobook says Lar, and then when it's plural, did they say? They say Larry's. Like there's multiple dudes named Larry. Okay. Cool. I'm going to imagine that every dude's name is Lawrence, and then, yeah. So the Larrys, this is great. They're just a bunch of Lawrences. So the Larrys shimmer into existence on the bench, and they go, hi, Larry, hi, Larry, hi, Larry. But then they glare at her, and Annabeth recognizes that she has no other choice but to step down and approach this trial with confidence, even if inside she's actually terrified. She states that she is a child of Athena, and a ghost replies, a Greek, that's even worse. And the narrator Annabeth says, at the other end of the chamber, an old-looking ghost rose with some difficulty, and as the narrator then wonders, do ghosts have arthritis? And stood by the altar, his dark eyes fixed on Annabeth. Her first thought was that he looked like the Pope. He had a glittering robe, a pointed hat, he was rooting for the Chicago White Sox, and a shepherd's crook. That was a new addition for me. This Pope ghost informs her that she is in the cavern of Mithras and that she has disturbed their sacred rituals. She cannot see their mysteries and live. And then I wrote on my notes, oh, right, yeah. Mithras got mentioned by someone earlier. Was it Aphros and Bythos? Was it Gia in a dream? It was neither. It was none of those three. We'll learn who it is in a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to ask because you've read the most recent chapters more recently. Has this been mentioned at all?
It has.
Okay.
And soon we'll learn that it was Aphrodite when they had the fancy tea time. Yeah.
Cool.
Annabeth says that she doesn't want to see their mysteries. She's just following the mark of Athena, so if they show her the exit, she will gladly walk through it. The Lares then mumble in Latin, and the ghost pope hits the ground with his shepherd's crook, and the Lares go silent. This pope ghost says that Annabeth's Greek goddess is powerless, as Mithras is the god of Roman warriors. Quote, he is the god of the legion, the god of the empire. And Annabeth counters that he wasn't even Roman, asking, wasn't he Persian? And he just yells, sacrilege, Mithras, protect us. And he goes on and on about the mysteries. Annabeth asks, okay, fine, you keep talking about these. What are them? What are these mysteries? And they call her an unbeliever and say that she must die like the other unbelievers. And the narrator Annabeth says, quote, her mind worked furiously, grasping for anything she knew about Mithras. He had a secret cult for warriors. He was popular in the Legion. He was one of the gods who'd supplanted Athena as a war deity. Aphrodite had mentioned him during their tea time chat in Charleston. Aside from that, Annabeth had no idea. Mithras just wasn't one of the gods they talked about at Camp Half-Blood. She doubted the ghosts would wait while she whipped out DEADalus' laptop and did a search. And I think it's very funny that in the previous chapters, we have Percy trying to figure out Chrysor's deal. And he's like, oh, if anyone would have just said anything about this guy before, I would know what's up. And Annabeth has a similar, she has like the nerdier version here of like, well, if any history books had dealt with this, but I was too busy studying the gods that matter. They're perfect for each
how
other.
is my life like on the line and the stakes are this guy that does not matter. It's not important to history.
Both of them are doing this. Like Percy's at sword point, she's facing certain doom, and they're both like, ugh, who are these people? They're so boring. She looks at the floor mosaic again, and she notices that the Lares each have a badge, and their badges on their toga correspond to each of the images, a raven, a torch, a bow, etc. She announces that these folks must have rites of passage, and they must have 7 levels of membership, with the top member being the pater. The Pope guy kept saying pater. That's the Latin word for father. We all know this. We all took Latin in high school, just like me. The Lares start freaking out, wondering how she knows this, and the pater silences them. But then one yells, but she might know about the ordeals. And then Annabeth goes, the ordeals, I know about them. It's great.
Because my superpower is context clues.
I mean, if you read the beginning of the Mark of Athena, that is her superpower. I saw Frank and Hazel. It looks like they just started dating last night. I've never seen them before, but I just smelled it in the air. Pater thinks that this is a lie. He tells Annabeth to choose her means of death. He says that if she doesn't, the god will choose for her. She guesses that the options are fire or dagger, and the pater is floored. He asks, who are you? And she says that she's a child of Athena, and she adds that I'm not just any child of Athena. I'm the mater of my sisterhood. I'm the magna mater, actually. And she says that Mithras cannot hide anything from her. So the ghosts are freaking out. They're all a mess. One claims that Mithras will kill her. The statue on the altar begins to glow. And then Annabeth looks around for an exit plan while monologuing about how she knows their initiation practices. But she is just guessing things such as, quote, how Mithras killed the sacred bull. But turns out that she was right. She calls out that the raven guy must be the lowest of the ranks, and then tells the pater that, quote, the weaver fears her. And narrator Annabeth lets us know that she's afraid of the answer here. She hopes that she's wrong about it, but she's going to be right. She's Annabeth. She's too smart to be wrong. She asks for the pater to let her pass, and he says that she must choose an ordeal, fire or dagger. And then Annabeth looks down and thinks of Tiberinus saying, the failures of your predecessors will guide you. And then she sees her fallen siblings and realizes that they all probably chose one of these options thinking that they could beat it, but they couldn't. So she looks at the statue of Mithras in the rock and thinks that maybe it's not stuck in a rock, but it is emerging from a rock. Annabeth says that she chooses the third ordeal, and she states that she will
Secret
pass
third thing.
Exactly. The pater is confused, and Annabeth says, quote, Mithras was born from rock. He emerged fully grown from the stone, holding his dagger and torch. And the Lares scream, and that lets her know that she is correct. The book then says, quote, "The big mother knows all," a ghost cried. "That is our most closely guarded secret." "Then maybe you shouldn't put a statue of it in your altar," Annabeth thought, but she was thankful for the stupid male ghosts. If they'd let women warriors into their cult, they might have learned some common sense. Great. We love a girl power thought from Annabeth. Yeah. Annabeth gestures to the wall that she entered from and claims that she was born from stone, just like Mithras, and thus she has already passed the ordeal. And the pater goes, "Bah," which I love. Bah. Bah has come up in a couple of chapters recently. In the episode 2 prior that I did with Sherry, Bah comes up. Bah's great. I love Bah. I told a story in the podcast of how Bah comes up in one of the children's books that I read to my daughter, and she loves to go Bah in response. Like when that page is coming up in the pigeon book, she'll go Bah, and it's great. It's really cute. Bah's very fun. So the pater goes, "Bah," saying that coming from a hole in the wall is not the same thing. I love that bah means like you're wrong and ga means like, oh, darn it. I use both. More ga than ba, because I'm not often telling people that they're wrong. Annabeth realizes, or if I'm telling them
Just
that they're wrong, I'm
thinking
just direct about it. Say
Okay, you're just thinking it.
Oh, me? Keep a thought in my brain? You know me better than that.
That's fair.
So he goes bah, saying that coming from a hole in the wall is not the same thing. Annabeth now realizes that the pater is not a complete moron, so she must adjust her strategy, but she is still confident that she can get out of here. She looks at the ceiling, and then she has an aha moment. She tells them that she has control over the stones and will prove her power is greater than Mithras by destroying his chamber with a single blow. Narrator Annabeth says, quote, "The ghosts wailed and trembled and looked at the ceiling, but Annabeth knew they didn't see what she saw. These ghosts were warriors, not engineers. The children of Athena had many skills, and not just in combat. Annabeth had studied architecture for years. She knew this ancient chamber was on the verge of collapse. She recognized what the stress fractures in the ceiling meant, all emanating from a single point, the top of the stone arch just above her. The capstone was about to crumble, and when that happened, assuming she could find it in time correctly, ... So look at her planning, using the architecture powers for strategy.
The power of architecture.
The power of architecture. I had never heard capstone used aside
in the literal
from,
sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
I only knew like capstone course or whatever. I knew about the cornerstone. I'd heard of that, but never the capstone. I'm assuming it just is like the top most important rock that would hold the ceiling together. We're all architects, right? Yeah. Well, Kelly's a little busy right now watching a baby. So the pater claims that this is impossible, saying that the weaver pays them well to destroy any child of Athena who enters their shrine. He says that they cannot let her pass. Annabeth says that this means that they do in fact fear her power. He tells her to do her worst, as no one, let alone a girl, can bring down this chamber at all, let alone in one strike. Annabeth scans the room for her escape. She tells them that they chose the wrong war god. She strikes the capstone with her dagger, and it poofs like it was made out of a big sugar cube. But then nothing happens, so the pater is very excited. But then the room begins to shake. Cracks spread across the ceiling, rocks fall, and the altar and the pater are buried. And then the book ends the chapter with the following quote, "More cracks widened, bricks fell from the arches, ghosts screamed and ran, but they couldn't seem to pass through the walls. Apparently, they were bound to this chamber even in death." Annabeth turned, she slammed against the blocked entrance with all her might, and the bricks gave way. As the cavern of Mithras imploded behind her, she lunged into darkness and found herself falling. Oh no.
One important line that you missed was when the ghost tried to attack her and just phased right through, and she just went, "You're dead. Sit down."
Thank you for calling that out. I appreciate that. That was a very important one. Now, I have retitled this chapter. I'm utilizing some lyrics from an AC/DC song, but I have retitled it, "We were faking and you shook me all night long," because she's pretending and then shaking the room and everything. Do you have a retitling for chapter 34?
Said Annabeth is mother.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Now, I had rushed through that chapter out of fear of us running out of time of doing all three of these chapters in one act of the show, but I think we're okay. So before we go on to chapter 35, did you have any notes that we, over 34, that you wanted to discuss that we didn't get to?
Just that one.
All right, fantastic. Let's move on to chapter 35, which Backstage, you had mentioned you really wanted to talk about, which is the most Michael Hollis thing possible to be like, can I talk about the chapter
The
where...
sad one.
Can we
As
talk-
your resident Dark Knight of the Soul correspondent.
Can we talk about the chapter where Annabeth wallows deeper and deeper into her internal sadness and the literal darkness of the room she's in? The descent into darkness of Annabeth, chapter 35. It opens with, quote, Annabeth thought she knew pain. Uh-oh, that's not good. So she explains as the narrator that she has fallen off of the lava wall. She has been stabbed in the arm with a poison blade. She has held the weight of the sky, but none of that compared to her landing this hard on her ankle. She knows instantly that she broke it. Now, I don't know if have you ever had this kind of situation? You break a bone and instantly you're like, oh, it's broken.
It just kind of like stepping off a curb wrong kind of thing. Never like falling that far.
Do you remember when I broke my ankle at Sky Zone at Rice University?
Yeah, I do now.
Yeah. I've told this story a couple of times on the podcast, but the important thing is that I broke the smaller bone, the tibia, very close to my ankle. And when it happened at Sky Zone, I just thought I had like sprained my ankle really bad. Like I heard like a pop and felt it, but I was just like, I think there's just a really bad sprain. And then I went to the ER after, and before they showed me my x-ray, because I went in, I was like, I think it's just a really bad sprain, but let's be precautious. And then the doctor came with the x-ray and he goes, you said this didn't hurt that much? I was like, what? And then he like flipped it around. It was very broken. It was like definitely broken. So I'm assuming Annabeth's injury far worse than mine. I was thankful that I didn't have any like tendon or any damage like that, but maybe she broke the bigger one or other stuff. I don't know. I'm squeamish, so I don't want to talk about this any further. She nearly blacks out from the pain, but she's able to prevent herself from going into shock. She wants to rage about how unfair this all is, but she keeps her emotions in check. She looks around at the tavern by the light of her dagger, and then she looks down at her ankle. She can still wiggle her toes, and there's no blood, so it could be way worse, which I do agree with. Feels like those are improvements, even if this is a bad situation. She goes to grab a piece of wood from like the rubble around her, and it's very brittle, so she knows that she can't really trust the structural integrity of anything that's around her. So she begins to think. As narrator Annabeth, she says, quote, she remembered a silly wilderness survival course Grover had taught her back at camp. At least it had seemed silly at the time.
Yeah, I bumped hard on that. Like A student Annabeth, who spent years like surviving in the wild before she got to camp, would ever think that a survival class was not helpful or pertinent to her life.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't clock that at first, but I think you're right. Yeah, because she's...
Yeah, why would she think that any of that was silly?
Right. Because, yeah, it's not like she would think surviving in the wild is silly because, just like you said, she had to do it
Maybe
on her
it was
own.
more just like how Grover went about it, you know?
Yeah.
That he was just kind of silly about it.
It's funny that this kind of sets the seed. It's like the planting of the seed for what became the consensus song in the TV show. Because I wasn't in the books, but that was like easily one of my favorite parts of the show. And it kind of feels like that is in the same vein of this, of like, there goes Grover
with his
again.
whimsy.
With his little thing, with all her steps. But yeah, that is interesting that she would not think it is important. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, no, but look, I get it. Now, step one is check for threats. The room seems like it won't collapse. The rock slide has subsided. The walls are solid and they don't have any cracks. The ceiling is not sagging. All good things. The only exit is an arched doorway at the far wall that leads into darkness. There is a trench in the floor that lets water run through, and Annabeth clocks that there's no immediate danger unless something enters through the doorway. And I do feel like that is a big enough concern to warrant at least a possibility of immediate danger. So that's possible. But then she moves on to step number 2, which is to take inventory. She has a water bottle. There's more water in the trench if she can reach it. She has her knife. And then as narrator Annabeth, she says, quote, her backpack was full of colorful string. And then in parentheses, we, W-H-E-E, to which I had to wonder, is that the term for colorful string? But we had talked about this backstage. We with an H is like how you go like we?
Yeah, it's just the exclamation.
But it's okay. By a show of hands, who would spell that W-H-E-E? Okay. And then who would just spell that W-E-E? Okay, so slightly more, but enough people with the H. And I'm a big whoa, W-H-O-A guy, which is correct according to the dictionary. I've had some people get real mad at me on the internet about this take, but they are wrong.
So is we, turns out.
Look, I got to do a deep dive on we. Have I been spelling we wrong my whole life? I got to look into it. But yeah, so I'm assuming by parentheses all lowercase we, this is not we, but instead we.
Yes, correct.
Her backpack was full of colorful string. Her laptop, the bronze map, some matches, and some ambrosia for emergencies. She thinks that her lackluster inventory means that this situation can be escalated to an emergency qualification. She eats the ambrosia, and since it always gives you a nice fuzzy memory, this time it tastes like buttered popcorn. And it reminds her specifically of the buttered popcorn that she would have on movie nights with her dad, and when no other step people are allowed. No stepmom, no stepbrothers, just me and my dad in SF. Annabeth's leg pain reduces, but she still knows that she's in trouble, and she can't put weight on her foot for a couple of days. She can't reach her knife, it's too far away, but she does like kind of painfully scoot over and grab it, so she's able to acquire it.
Does it seem like the strength or like speed of ambrosia is just very plot dependent? Like, how injured do I want them to be for this chapter?
From my understanding,
It seems like a lot of things they just walk off, fairly easily.
I could be wrong here, but from my understanding, ambrosia seems to be like the next level past nectar. Like it seems like nectar is for more minor stuff, and ambrosia is more of like, oh baby. And do both of them, if you have too much of them, you like start to burn up? Like, do they both have the same bad side effect? Yeah. I feel like in one of the stories in the Demigod Files, when it's the Sword of Hades, which is Percy and Thalia and Nico are going down, and they fight things near the river that are like bat-like creatures or something. They have talons, and Percy gets like slashed up real bad. I feel like in that instance, something happened and they were like, oh, this calls for ambrosia, and he healed more quickly. So that would be my understanding. I think it does feel a little plot dependent at times, but I think specifically ambrosia's like the next level up of the two. So it kind of checks out, but yeah, I think it also kind of feels like it does kind of fit what the story needs. So the next step on Grover's list is wait for rescue, and Annabeth knows that that's not happening.
And when is that ever going to be like good advice for a demigod? Like, how often is their backup coming?
Yeah, I guess it's good advice if you, maybe this is like Grover's just like regular wilderness advice.
Yeah, I guess if you're in the woods and capture the flag or something and someone is going to come find you.
Yeah, because like this is good advice like if you go on a hike or something like that. Like you are better off, making sure you're all good to go and your area is safe, and then hoping someone will find you, whether you like call or walkie-talkie or flare gun or whatever, rather than like try to force your way down a mountain on a busted leg and then you fall and it's even worse, or you hurt it even more badly, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you're right, in demigod situations.
I was just thinking about like on a quest where it's like, I succeed or I die.
Right.
Is the general sentiment.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why the first step is no immediate threats.
True.
So the next step is wait for rescue. Annabeth knows that's not going to happen. She thinks even if Percy is tracing her steps, I love that in the back of her head, she's like, I told him 1,000,000 times not to do it. The river god Tiberinus told him not to do it. Audrey Hepburn told him not to do it. And
there's at least a 20% chance that he's right behind me.
There's still a chance that he's doing it. I feel like he is impertinent, so I get it. Even if he's tracing her steps, the cavern of Mithras has collapsed. She thinks that her laptop will get no signal, so she can't send out a distress call. But then she also thinks, well, I don't even know who I would call. None of my friends have cell phones. Who am I going to call? And then she thinks, well, what about an iris message? Well, that's not going to work because I don't have enough light for a rainbow. And then she goes, well, it's also not going to work because I don't have a proper coin. I just got the mark of Athena, and that's not going to be good enough for a tribute to send to Iris for an iris message. And then she goes, well, none of this matters because this is supposed to be a solo quest. And if I go on the quest and someone else joins me, if I get any help, I'm going to be disqualified and the marks are going to stop showing up. Just like the depression spiral.
Instead of starting with, I have to do this by myself, I'm on my own. It's, well, if I did want help, how would I go about it? Okay, but then the world would still end if I failed this quest, so.
Yeah. As resident sadness, darkness correspondent, this felt like Annabeth at this point was in her lowest low of like, here's all the reasons why it won't work. Oh, just kidding, it wouldn't have worked anyway. How are you feeling at this
definitely
point?
a little bit of a thought spiral of what's happening. How do I get out of this?
Yeah. She thinks that the mark won't guide her if help comes, so she knows I gotta find a way to proceed on my own. She drinks her water until it's empty, then she refills it. She thinks the water is gonna be safe to drink because it is moving quickly and it's cold. Those are good signs that it's safe to drink. She splashes her face with the water and instantly feels better. And then she scolds her ankle for breaking, and the narrator Annabeth goes, "The ankle did not reply." She thinks that the only way to be mobile is if she puts it into a cast. So she crawls over to the wreckage of what she believes was it used to be a staircase, and then it all crumbled down. She makes a splint using some of the wooden planks from the busted steps and then leather straps from some nearby boxes. She uses her dagger to cut them off. She notices that one of the boxes is from Hermes Express. So she gets really excited because I don't know what's going to be in these boxes, she thinks, but it's usually some good stuff. He's been helpful in the past. Let's see. She opens it up and it's just bubble wrap, and she wants to curse Hermes, but then she realizes, wait a second, the bubble wrap.
Actually, that's exactly what I need.
Yeah, the bubble wrap is the gift. She wraps her ankle in it, and I thought this was going to be like magical bubble wrap at first.
Nope.
Because you've got magical thermos and magical other stuff that he did, and I thought that's what it was going to be, but then no, wraps it up, and it's just like, okay, well, it is just regular bubble wrap, which is helpful, but I thought it was going to be like, no, her ankle is better. But yes, she utilizes that, sets up the lumber splints, ties it with the leather straps, and she's got a makeshift cast. And what's good is at first I was like, wow, good thing Annabeth knows how to do this. And then the next line is Annabeth saying that she had done this once for someone else at Camp Half-Blood during first aid practice, but she never thought that she would have to do it to herself. I'm glad they do first aid practice. That's very helpful. We both did first aid because we were both lifeguards at Rice University.
Yes, that is true.
And that serves you well. Getting really, beat up those dummies as you sing Staying Alive over and over again. Look, you gotta break some ribs. It's not easy if you're doing CPR. You gotta get in there. So she does this. She makes it all up. She's able to stand. She has the kind of like blurry, spotty vision for a little bit. It is not easy, but she's at least thinking like she can make her way slowly through. And then the mark blazes above the open doorway. I don't know how the magic of the mark works, but I do like that it does seem to just know exactly when to show up.
It's a quest indicator,
Yeah, but it knows not to show
The current activity is fix your foot. Now you can proceed.
Prerequisite, fix your broken foot. Now, here I am. Yeah, it's just like the arrow heads up.
The door to go through doesn't matter if you can't walk.
Annabeth had muttered previously that fighting a monster would have been easier. And then when she sees the owl, she imagines it saying, "About time. Oh, you want monsters? Right this way." The book ends this chapter with the following quote: Annabeth wondered if that burning mark was based on a real sacred owl. If so, when she survived, love that she said when, not if. When she survived, she was going to find that owl and punch it in the face. That thought lifted her spirits. She made it across the trench and hobbled slowly into the corridor. That is the end of chapter 35, which I have retitled, I Complete Grover's Wilderness Survival Course.
I said, I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Yo! We love Chumbawamba in this household. What a song Tub Thumping is. We continue on with chapter 36.
Hold up.
Okay.
I will be conscious of time, so I won't share all of my thoughts.
No, please, share them all. Share them all.
The first one is, any guesses on the first line of this book's prophecy?
The first line of this book's prophecy?
Yeah.
A daughter of Athena walks alone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's mean. Well, I guess
I'm glad he didn't call attention to it. It'd be a little too on the nose,
But I mean, I guess she can't run.
Right.
But yeah, it would have been wild if it was like a daughter of Athena hobbles alone.
Right. Yeah. It is like on surface value, it's absurd to spend an entire chapter on a broken ankle, but I think it fits so perfectly with Annabeth, whose fatal flaw is hubris. That is just like the most embarrassing barrier that like would have taken out anyone else. It's just like, well, that's it, I guess. Show's over, guys. But I think it was the chapter right before this, 33, where she was like, what are my superpowers? Oh, I'm smart. Great.
Yeah.
They can like make the ocean rise and thunder and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought this was a great example of not only her intelligence, but also her willpower.
Yeah.
That it's not just she knew how to do it. It's she forced herself to keep going.
Right. Even when she's at her lowest low of like thinking, here's all the things that went wrong, here's why none of this could work, blah, 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 she still decides, but I got to do it.
Yeah, that like in D&D terms, not only is she like high intelligence and wisdom, obviously, but also has the charisma, the like force of personality, the leadership instincts to like make things happen.
And the constitution to deal with her busted ankle.
Yeah, to grit through the pain.
All right, so now we will conclude with chapter 36, which is also titled Annabeth, but of course we will retitle it. It opens with, quote, "The tunnel ran straight and smooth, but after her fall, Annabeth decided to take no chances. She used the wall for support and tapped the floor in front of her with her crutch to make sure there were no traps. There's a sickly sweet smell that grows stronger, and she grows more and more nervous. The sound of water grows quieter, and the sound of loads of tiny whispers grow louder." So seems like spiders. Her hand gets covered in cobwebs at one point because she's like running her hand along the wall as she continues. And narrator Annabeth says, quote, "She'd expected spiders. She knew what was ahead. The Weaver, her ladyship, the voice in the dark. But the webs made her realize how close she was." So feels even more and more likely we are in Arachne Town at this time. Annabeth thinks that she is foolish for ever believing that she could do this alone, but there's no turning back now. You gotta press onward. The whispers become louder, the cobwebs become thicker, and they start taking up more room. And then the corridor ends in a doorway that is filled with lumber up to Annabeth's waist. She thinks perhaps this was an attempt at barricading, and on the other side of the barricade is a chamber the size of a basketball court. I know that. That's a good point of reference for me. It's got a Roman mosaic floor. There's faded tapestries on the wall. There's unlit torches covered in cobwebs on the walls as well. And there is a mark burning above the doorway on the far end of the room. The only problem is that there's a 50-foot chasm between Annabeth and the exit. Narrator Annabeth says, quote, "Spanning the pit were two parallel wooden beams, too far apart for both feet, but each too narrow to walk on unless Annabeth was an acrobat, which she wasn't, and didn't have a broken ankle, which she did."
Now, I'm no sports expert, but is this like regulation standard? The huge chasm in the basketball field?
No.
Basketball court?
Basketball is one of the sports where there is like a proper court the whole time. So no, you can't have a chasm in between. Baseball, you can make up the sizes up. In soccer, I only learned this from Ted Lasso because he was surprised by it. The soccer pitches aren't a uniform size either. But no, basketball does have stricter rules about how big it has to be. And unfortunately, unlike there not being a rule that says dogs can't play basketball, that's not in the rule book. But there is a rule that says no 50-foot chasms. So the corridor from which she came fills with spiders, and this is her first glance at them. She had heard them, but now she sees them. They are small. She can't tell what kind of spider they are, but she knows that they are coming after her, so it doesn't really matter. As narrator Annabeth, she says, quote, "Annabeth wanted to sob. She wanted someone, anyone to be here for her. She wanted Leo with his fire skills, or Jason with his lightning, or Hazel to collapse the tunnel. Most of all, she wanted Percy. She always felt braver when Percy was with her. So Annabeth vows to herself that she will not die here. She will live to see Percy again." And I love that Percy's only little bit of hope of trudging on in the Son of Neptune is the same as hers in the Mark of Athena. It's very cute.
Yes, very nice.
As the narrator, she says, quote, "Annabeth hobbled to one of the wall sconces and snatched up the torch. The end was coated in pitch for easy lighting." Pitch? I was unfamiliar with. I guess that it's a lighter fluid kind of stuff where it catches easily?
It's like tar. It's like what you put on a torch so that you can, that makes it flammable.
Cool. We learn something every day. Her fingers felt like lead, but she rummaged through her backpack and found the matches. She struck one and set the torch ablaze. So she chucks this into the barricade, and the wood is engulfed in flames, and it quickly then jumps onto the spider webs. Spider webs are flammable?
Apparently.
Yeah, I thought that was just like a D&D thing in Baldur's Gate where it's like, sure, yeah, fine, magic spider webs, magic fire, right, but apparently they're flammable.
Yeah, I did look this up, and from a 10-second Google search, at least the AI in Google is telling me that the dust on the cobwebs will catch fire and burn, but regular spider web, if it's fresh and clean, would probably just melt and not ignite per se.
Well, if these webs, these are going to be dusty webs.
They've been here a while.
If there was ever a spider web to be dusty, it's these webs. So They're on fire. It starts torching spiders. She thinks, all right, I've bought myself some time, but I didn't defeat all the spiders. So she approaches the edge of the chasm. She shines light in the pit. She decides it is too deep to jump. She decides that monkey barring, like hand over hand over the beam, that's not going to work. She can't pull herself up at the end anyway. So she decides to study the beams. And she notices that each have iron eye hooks along the inside of them. They're 1 foot apart. And she thinks, maybe something else is going on here. Quote, maybe the rails had been the sides of a bridge and the middle planks had been removed or destroyed, but eye hooks, those weren't for supporting planks. More like, and I wrote in my notes, more like what? And then she looks at the tapestries on the wall. And I had thought that the tapestries were a bit weird when it was like, oh, the mosaic floor and tapestries on the wall. I was like, that's new.
Have those in basketball courts. Except sometimes you do, and it's like championship.
Oh, Troy Bolton, yeah. Or retired jerseys, sure. But I was just thinking more of like, well, all the other rooms, it was like stuff was painted on the walls. But when it was tapestries, I was like, oh, fun tapestries. But no, it's Chekhov's tapestries. She then realizes this isn't a bridge, it's a loom. So she goes and takes the torch. She throws it to the other side of the chasm. Good throw to get it across the 50-foot chasm. She pulls out string and she begins weaving through the beams in a cat's cradle pattern, which is funny because a previous chapter I had retitled 33, like I entered the cat's cradle because I was like, this is the one weaving string thing I know. So then she goes and it's working. She's like slowly inching across the chasm and it feels like an out-of-body experience for her. Like she doesn't know how she's able to do this. She doesn't even know when she learned to do this, but then she realizes, quote, it's Athena, she told herself, my mother's skill with useful crafts. Weaving had never seemed particularly useful to Annabeth until now. The fire at the barricade is now dying, so she knows she's got to move. And she finally makes it across. She grabs her torch, she throws it onto her bridge, and this catches fire, the beams catch fire, and then as the narrator, she says, quote, for a moment, the bridge burned in a clear pattern, a fiery row of identical owls. Had Annabeth really woven them into the string, or was it some kind of magic? She didn't know, but as the spiders began to cross, the beams crumbled and collapsed into the pit. Ooh. So she holds her breath, and then she thinks, okay, the spiders might still be able to crawl around, so they're going to come back, so I got to just keep going. But the spiders don't follow, which she thinks is very strange. They just all pile up at the edge of the pit. And she calls it, quote, a seething black carpet of creepiness. But then they disappear. They go back into the corridor that has been burned as if they are just like no longer interested in her. And Annabeth thinks, maybe I passed a test. She says that out loud, and then her torch goes dark, which immediately I was like, oh, no. She just has the light of her bronze dagger. She realizes, oh man, I've left my makeshift crutch on the other side of the chasm. That stinks. She feels like her bag of tricks has gone empty, but her mind is clear and her panic isn't there anymore. So she's thinking, all right, let's go. So she thinks, okay, the Weaver, I gotta be close. I know what's ahead, let's do this. So she goes down the next corridor and she tries to keep as much weight off of her broken ankle as possible. And then she says, as the narrator, quote, she didn't have far to go. After 20 feet, the tunnel opened into a cavern as large as a cathedral, so majestic that Annabeth had trouble processing everything she saw. She guessed that this was the room from Percy's dream, but it wasn't dark. Bronze barriers of magical light, like the gods used on Mount Olympus, glowed around the circumference of the room, interspersed with gorgeous tapestries. The stone floor was webbed with fissures like a sheet of ice. The ceiling was so high, it was lost in the gloom and layers upon layers of spider webs. What a visual from Uncle Rick. So there's strands of silk as thick as pillars that are running from the ceiling all over the room, and they are anchoring the walls and the floor like cables of a suspension bridge. There are webs around the centerpiece of this shrine, and this gives Annabeth the heebie-jeebies. It makes her almost like not want to be able to look at it. And then looming over her was a 40-foot tall statue of Athena, quote, with luminous ivory skin and a dress of gold. In her outstretched hand, Athena held a statue of Nike, the winged victory goddess, a statue that looked tiny from here but was probably as tall as a real person. Athena's other hand rested on a shield as big as a billboard with a sculpted snake peeking out from behind as if Athena was protecting it.
We found it.
We found it. We finally found it. And funnily enough, you flew out of Nashville today
I
to get
did.
here. So you were in the city with the big Athena statue.
Yeah, I almost went in and like took a selfie with the thing, but I decided $15 was a little bit too much for just the bit of doing that. And plenty of photos existed online.
Right. And we tried to go when we were in there, but it was closed, right?
Yeah.
So maybe one day I'll be able to see it.
But it's pretty big.
It's big. It is big. 40 feet. That's huge. That's 4 basketball rims. See, my unit of measurement of choice. She says that the goddess's face of the statue looks very serene and calm, and she thinks it's an accurate statue. It actually looks like Athena, much like Sue Bird's new statue, which was unveiled yesterday, actually looks like Sue Bird, unlike Dwayne Wade's statue unveiled earlier, which looks nothing like Dwayne Wade. Annabeth says that she has seen many statues that didn't look like Athena, but this is legit. And then Annabeth goes, Athena Parthenos, it's really here. And she thinks that all her life she wanted to visit the Parthenon, and now she's seeing the main attraction that used to be there, and she's the first child of Athena to see it in millennia. She thinks it's pretty cool. She realizes that her mouth was agape, and she forces herself to swallow. She thinks that she could stand here all day if she wanted to, but this is only half of the mission. There's more to be done. She had found the statue, but now she has to rescue it. And how will she rescue it?
That's my favorite part, is that like even for Annabeth, the like operating logic of the quest is like, we'll figure it out. Is like, we'll have to improv because this is impossible. Like, how would she possibly have had an idea of what to do with this big statue?
She's going to find a way. Now, there are strands of web all over it, and she thinks that without this web, the statue probably would have collapsed through the surely very weak floor that can't hold up this giant 40-foot statue. And she can see that the cracks on the floor below are so wide that, you know, her whole foot could go in them. So these are like big. This isn't just like step on a crack, break your mother's back thing. This is like step your foot through a hole and you and a 40-foot statue of your mom go tumbling into an abyss. Like these are cracks. They're serious.
Relatable. Don't you just hate it?
Don't you just hate it? So Annabeth then thinks, wait, there's supposed to be a guardian. Where is the guardian? This isn't good. And then she's thinking, am I going to be able to free the statue without the floor collapsing? You know, now her brain is starting to really wonder, So she looks around the chamber. She's hoping to look and see something helpful, not something that wants to attack her. And then she sees the tapestries. Oh, tapestries again. And she says that these are, quote, heart-wrenchingly beautiful. One showed a pastoral scene so three-dimensional it could have been a window. Another tapestry showed the gods battling the giants. Annabeth saw a landscape of the underworld. Next to it was the skyline of modern Rome. And in the tapestry to her left, and then she sees that it is a portrait of 2 demigods kissing underwater.
Someone's got a stalker.
It's so lifelike that Annabeth wonders, was the Weaver watching this interaction? And she murmurs out loud, how is that possible? And then, of course, I love this trope so much. It's so perfect. A voice from above goes, for ages, I have known that you would come here, my sweet. Annabeth gets very nervous, and she's back to when she's 7 years old, cowering under the covers when she had all the spiders going on. And she says that the voice sounded just as Percy had described, quote, an angry buzz in multiple tones, female, but not human. So it's here. It's her ladyship, the aforementioned her ladyship. Annabeth, as the narrator says, that in the webs above the statue, something moves, something dark, something large. And then this voice continues, I've seen you in my dreams. I had to make sure you were worthy, the only child of Athena, clever enough to pass my tests and reach this place alive. Indeed, you are her most talented child. This will make your death so much more painful to my old enemy when you fail utterly. And I think it's very interesting that it's not just, I've got the statue, I'm going to set up all of these traps so that people can't rescue the statue, but she is specifically keeping the statue safe and then also putting children of Athena through some intense trials so that she can get like the best one. I didn't see that coming at all, never would have guessed it, and it just makes this so much more sinister, as if Giant Spider wasn't sinister enough.
So just to recap, because she says tests, plural. Obviously, the loom, that's like one that has like a clear solution.
Right.
What were the other tests? Was like exploding all of her children, was that part of the test? Like, can you survive all these spiders?
Maybe there were other ones, but with her little detour into the Mithras thing and then blowing it up and going through, she like bypassed it. You know how when
Yeah,
you're
like
playing...
what was she supposed to do? Was exploding the chamber the correct answer for the
mean,
test? Of
maybe just like straight up finding it is one, and then there is the like thing where she had to make the makeshift ladder. That could have been another test, but she could have bypassed it, much like the villains in the Uncharted games. Like, you're Nathan Drake, you go through, you do all the puzzles and all this stuff, and then you get to the final chamber, and then in all 4 games, I'm pretty sure, the villain comes through and is like, yeah, I just used explosives. I just blew up the old Mayan ruins. You did all the puzzles? You nerd. So maybe she bypassed them via explosion. So Annabeth calls out, "You're Arachne, the weaver who was turned into a spider." And then, oh man, Rick's just great because it says, quote, "The figure descended, becoming clearer and more horrible." So Arachne reminds Annabeth that she was cursed by Athena, her own mother, and she was scorned and made into this hideous thing, all because she was a better weaver. And Annabeth corrects that she lost the contest. Arachne says, no, that's the story that's written by the winner. Look on my work, see for yourself. Do you know the story well enough? Because I thought she won, and then Athena did this just because she was jealous. Did she lose the contest?
I mean, I assume from that there are versions where like the spider thing was her punishment for being like having the hubris to think she could do it better than Athena.
Okay, I can double check with Dr. Moya in the Myth Check episode. But Annabeth, as the narrator, just thinks like, no, these are ridiculously good tapestries. I can see how good you are. And then she wonders, maybe Athena really did lose. Maybe Athena did this to hide Arachne away and then rewrote the truth. But she thinks, okay, even if that's the situation, that doesn't matter. I got to deal with this giant spider that wants to sacrifice me. Annabeth guesses.
It's another like with Medusa, like, yes, you've been wronged, but please don't kill me because of it.
Yeah. It's like, okay, bad stuff went down, but, don't necessarily justify what you're about to do. I mean, this just happened with the lake thing with, I forgot the dude's name, with the bull body face of a man guy with Piper and Leo on the other side of the Hercules thing. You know, in the Mark of Athena a couple of chapters ago, when they visit Hercules and he has to
But you
break off
haven't
someone's
gotten there
horn?
yet in the podcast.
It does. I knew that. But yeah, that guy. We know that guy. So.
Is it Asterius? Is it the same guy?
No, it's not him.
Okay.
It's someone else. Akleos?
Achelous.
Achelous? Sure. Yeah. Works. So, no, we gotta go. Let's keep it going. That's not important. This is important. So Annabeth guesses that Arachne has been guarding the statue for years and years and years, but it doesn't belong here, and Annabeth is gonna take it back. I just love the response. Arachne just goes, ha.
Not even a bah.
Not even a bah. No exclamation point. Just ha. Ugh.
You're cute.
So sinister. Annabeth recognizes, okay, yeah, I didn't think that this threat was really gonna work, especially given me and my ridiculous looking splint. I do not look like an imposing figure here. And Arachne tells her that she's going to have to defeat her in order to leave, and quote, "That is impossible." Finally, she makes her big reveal. She comes down from all of the webbing, and then Annabeth realizes, oh man, this is bad. I'm not gonna make it out of this. Here's the description. Arachne had the body of a giant black widow with a hairy red hourglass mark on the underside of her abdomen and a pair of oozing spinnerets. Her 8 spindly legs were lined with curved barbs as big as Annabeth's dagger. If the spider came any closer, her sweet stench alone would have been enough to make Annabeth faint. But the most horrible part was her misshapen face. She might once have been a beautiful woman. Now black mandibles protruded from her mouth like tusks. Her other teeth had grown into thin white needles. Fine dark whiskers dotted her cheeks. Her eyes were large, lidless, and pure black, with 2 smaller eyes sticking out of her temples. I apologize to anyone who has arachnophobia, because I don't like it. I don't like it. So scary. Ew.
It would be an interesting like personality quiz. Like, would you rather deal with the broken ankle or spiders?
Gosh, man, I
These
don't.
both are like very cringy.
Yeah. Squeamishness for me is worse than the spider, but I feel like I don't even know where I'd begin to face off against this spider. So then Arachne makes this strange noise that Annabeth guesses is laughter. And then we get the ending of this chapter, which is, quote, "Now I will feast on you, my sweet," Arachne said, "but do not fear. I will make a beautiful tapestry depicting your death." And that is the end of chapter 36. And that is the end of this portion of the episode for now. We got to retitle it, though. Did you have a retitling of chapter 36?
I said I weave a leap of faith. It's not the best, but that's what I got.
I retitled it along the lines of Itsy Spider. Yep. To Down Goes the Sun and Presented the Pain. That's the end of this chapter, the end of this portion of the episode. It's the end of this act for now, but let's all quick say goodbye to the podcast people because we'll take our break, the market of Athena, and then they'll hear the Q&A, but let's all say goodbye to the podcast people. Goodbye,
podcast people.
Hello and welcome to the Market of Athena Auxiliary Shubio edition. I am here in the Auxiliary Shubio because it is Saturday night at the time of recording this, and I will be getting this episode up for patrons on Saturday night, so early access perks, but I've got some updates with the podcast, so let's talk about those updates. First and foremost, I mentioned this in our little bonus episode earlier in our off week, but we've got a live show coming to Los Angeles, California on December 2nd. We'll be covering more of the House of Hades. You can get tickets right now at thenewsolympian.com/live, and if you want to learn more about exactly what chapters and who the guest is and all those sorts of details, you can follow at Newest Olympian on social media. On Instagram, I'll be making a post there. I might make a post on other stuff, but really, I don't like using anything other than Instagram right now because I am enjoying using less social media, but I'll post more of the details there, but that is locked in. It's 8 p.m. on December 2nd in Los Angeles, technically Santa Monica, so very Percy Jackson relevant, and you can get there via public transit, and they have free parking. What is not to love? Now, also speaking of live shows, I'm making more ground on the Australia-New Zealand tour. Currently, I have some solid agreements looking with the 4 Australian venues on those dates that I had mentioned. So that would be January 3rd in Sydney, January 10th in Perth, January 17th in Melbourne, and January 24th in Brisbane. So those would all be evenings on those dates. The Perth show is looking like it will be in the afternoon, but those are all Saturday shows, so hopefully you can make it out. I am also working on New Zealand stuff. The plan originally was Wellington and Auckland, but we might also add a Christchurch show as well. So January 31st maybe for Wellington, February 7th for Auckland maybe, and then a Christchurch show somewhere in between those two. I have to work on that afterwards, but I wanted to cross all of my Australian T's before dotting my New Zealand I's. So that's where we're at there. Again, just listen to these mid-roll breaks and make sure you're following us on social media because once those ticket sales are up, I will post that so we can get as much of a jump on that as possible. But that's what we've got going on there. I'm really excited to return and do some shows in new cities. Now, recently on the Patreon, I posted a bonus episode. I posted some director's commentaries. I'm getting back and doing live streams. So there's been more and more stuff going up there. I will be doing a new director's commentary about this particular stop of tour. It was such a wild story that went into this whole Kansas City show that I can't even talk about it here because it'll take like 15 minutes just to describe that whole thing. So if you're interested to hear the behind the scenes of what went into this chaotic Kansas City show, go over to the Patreon. And if you join at the God's tier and above, you get access to director's commentaries. I will soon be making a bonus episode now that I'm done with the Mark of Athena in the present tense, as where I'm recording right now. The next bonus episode that I ought to do will be the thing that I do every single time I finish a book, which is I do the Sporkle quiz where I can see if I can do all of the characters by mention quiz, and then also I review all of the different covers for the book. So if you want a fun video bonus episode, a little different than what you get here in podcast world, head on over to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You can also now go to patreon.com/the newest Olympian. Shout out to Bobby Wagner, who has been on the show, who now works for Patreon, and they let me know, hey, you don't have to keep the Potterless URL. You can do a redirect. So for years and years, I kept patreon.com/Potterless because I have 5 years worth of Potterless episodes telling people to go there, and I didn't want that link to not work anymore. But that link now just brings you to the TNO one. So you can also go to patreon.com/the newest Olympian if you want to do one less step getting to the Patreon. You're like, oh my goodness, I can't click one extra thing. Blah. So now you don't have to. Huzzah! So if you wanted to join the Patreon, if that was your big barrier to entry and you want to join, do it. And you could be like one of the people I'm about to give a shout out to, because I'm going to give a shout out to the folks who've joined the Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest Super God tier patron, Brandon Beck, and shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Logan Ferry, The Damn Snack Bar, Bookworm37, and you. And shout out to our newest demigod tier patron, G. Mejia. Thank you all so much for your support. May Aeolus bless you, that if you are having an outdoor hang in the fall and it's a risk of being a very windy day, that it's not too windy. That happened this past weekend. I had a park hang, and thankfully it wasn't too windy, even though the reports were for lots of wind. So shout out Aeolus. I appreciate you. Maybe it's because I say a nice thing about you in the Q&A coming up after this break. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes and early release episodes, as proof by this one, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Iceland, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Icelandic. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the News Olympian, which is just the Q&A. This was a half TNO, half Potterless show, so the second act was Potterless, so that's why there's no two-break thing for the live show. But yeah, once that is done, we'll get into the Q&A, which is super duper fun. But if you're on Patreon, we'll just get right to it.
Now we have time for some Q&A. Oh, cool. I titled something in the podcast wrong. Thanks. That's an email that I got earlier today. Let's go on to questions. Okay. This one is from Sydney. Hi, Mike and Michael. Second time live show attendee. Welcome to Missouri. Hope your barbecue was not cold. In Mark of Athena, we see the amalgamation, what a word choice, of Annabeth's worst fear, Spider-Woman horror show. What would your personal worst villain to face be? Scariest thing. Mine would be claustrophobia with styrofoam rubbing together, combined with all my friends are hanging out without me and they didn't invite me intentionally. And they're having a great time. What would be your personal worst choice?
Mine would be like a job interview, but it's also like there's a physical fitness component. Like I have to juggle a basketball or something. And by juggle, I mean dribble.
Incredible. Okay. This one. Okay. I don't want to get into heated discussions, but this subject line says Q39 barbecue is the best. Ooh, murders from the crowd. Uh-oh. I don't want to even... Hi, Mike and Mike. This one's from Meredith. I love your podcast. My question is, if the Percy Jackson characters were in Hamilton, who would be Angelica, Aaron Burr, and Thomas Jefferson?
Okay.
I feel like Piper has to be Angelica. The charm speak, the singing, like the most powerful performance in that whole show, I think, is that whole, the rewind song. Like, that's my instinct there.
Maybe, but she's also like the smart one. That could be Annabeth.
That could be Annabeth.
This wasn't the question, but Leo is Peggy.
He is the seventh wheel. And Leo. Yeah. Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson. Ooh.
Aaron Burr is... Okay, this is Percy Jackson general, so it could be like Luke or...
Because of the traitor nature, I'm thinking of like if these people had to act in Hamilton, and I want to give Aeolus Thomas Jefferson because he's able to like rap quickly and talk fast, but also is like very all about like presentation. And David Diggs like knew what he was doing as Thomas Jefferson.
Okay,
but then Aaron Burr, it's tough. Luke is a fun one because of the traitor element of it.
It was the Ethan Nakamura. Was
Ethan
the other
Nakamura?
One.
Yeah.
That's like angsty kind of.
Oh, yeah. Revenge. Yeah. Okay, cool. I like it. Let's keep it rolling. This one is from David. It says, Missouri pigeons, how do they fare? I have not seen any. Hello, Mike. It's great to finally have less than 8 hours away to travel for the show. Firstly, I have a gift for you if you have the time. I made something in honor of Percy's birthday. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, Percy. I was supposed to say that at some point in the show. I definitely scheduled this show knowing that is his birthday. That was intentional. But yes, you can either leave it at the merch. Yeah, leave it at the merch table after the show, and I'll get it. That's so kind of you, David. But continuing. Secondly, I was wondering if you would help me name my new car. The last car I had was a black car named Blackjack. I recently bought a cherry red truck and am stuck on a name for it. Some top contenders are Bob, as in the tomato from VeggieTales, and Clifford, as in the dog. Any kind of help would be very helpful. We have to name a red truck, and apparently it doesn't have to just be Percy Jackson. A red truck. David, what is the make and model of the car? It's a Dodge Dakota. Oh my God, Dakota drinks Kool-Aid in... It's too obvious, yeah. Oh, but it's so good. It's so good. But you don't just want to name your Dakota Dakota. Can you name your Dakota? Oh, yeah. I mean, okay.
Is Rachel Elizabeth Dare too much of a mouthful?
Because of R.E.D. Okay, yeah. Red is good. So you can name, here's a couple of different options. Aaron, who's running the merch table, Bacchus, because Dakota is the son of Bacchus, and that's the red. You can also then go with Rachel, a la Rachel Elizabeth Dare, because her initials are R.E.D. and she has red hair. Or you can also go with Dakota and name it, oh yeah! You have 3 options. Choose whatever you would like. There you go. Or choose something else. You don't have to do it. I'm not going to come back and be like, what did you name your car, David? Okay. More division. Kansas City, Kansas is better. Oh. This is from, is it Courtney? Courtney. Okay, but you spell Courtney interestingly. Courtenay. Mm-hmm. Hey, Shoops, you've talked before about how the beginning of all the books is just recap, quote, in case you got to this point without knowing who Percy Jackson is. Well, I actually read the Heroes of Olympus books out of order, 3, 2, 4, 1, 5. My library didn't have any of the first books. I was very confused. Since you haven't read all of Heroes of Olympus, what do you think the most chaotic order to read the original Percy Jackson series would be? I feel like you would have to go... I think the most chaotic would be 4, 3. I think 4, 3, 2, 5, 1 would be the most chaotic because 4 felt the most like, you know what these books are, yeah?
Yeah, that was the least recap.
Yeah, and then also there's a lot of why is this Annabeth person so mad at Percy for hanging out with this Rachel person? What's going on here? Who is this Rachel person? What? And then to do 3 would be well, I kind of got some context, but what's the, there's skeletons coming out of the ground? And then 5, I think 4, 3, 2, because then you're how does this go with the rest of the books? And then 5, 1, yeah. Any thoughts? Do you have?
I was just stuck on the Heroes of Olympus that starting with the second one isn't a terrible idea.
No, you can flip 2 and 1 and be almost completely fine.
Yeah, there are a few things that don't make sense, but
fun stuff. Okay, this one is from Aaron. The subject line: fountains, barbecue, and Taylor Swift. Hello from the merch table. Oh, hello. Welcome to Kansas City, the city of fountains. Is that actually their thing? Oh, wow. Cool. Percy would love it here. We have more fountains than any place besides Rome. That's fun. I've been listening to you for years since you were on book 3 of Harry Potter. I'm so glad you're finally in Kansas City. I hope you enjoyed our gorgeous city. Oh, yeah. I had a great view of where the bus dropped me off at the train station to my hotel at undisclosed location. And then the walk from the hotel to here. I've seen all the sights. I passed 2 murals that were happy about how good the Chiefs are at football. I've seen it all. My question, if you had to go through a set of trials specifically designed for you, i.e. Annabeth's weaving trial because she's an Athena kid, what would they be? Congratulations to you and Kelly on your precious baby girl. P.S. What socks are you wearing? These are just an artistic design sock. There's no fun necessarily thing going on, but I did it because there's shades of pink in there and my shoes are pink, but my shirt is lavender and I wanted to make sure that the shoes felt cohesive to the outfit and not they were clashing with the lavender. So I was I got to wear some pink socks and stuff in there. Hence the socks. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Kind of answer this with the
that's my biggest fear. But if there was some sort of a task, what would it be? I guess something that's inherent to my parentage. So a skill that I've gotten from Barb and Joel. I would say something in regards to storytelling, because I think that's what lended itself to me becoming a podcaster, is that we would always just share these family stories and stuff around the dinner table and with some of our closest friends. And that was always just a classic activity, just sitting around sharing stories, sometimes telling the same ones over and over and over again, all about it, which holds true of me telling the same stories on different podcasts and stuff. What about you? What's like the quintessential Michael Hollis task to tackle?
I don't know, like cleaning my bedroom or something. Just very mundane, and you should be able to do this. And yet.
This one has pictures and there's spiders and I don't like it, but I already opened it. This is from Lily and Alex plus Sage. So what did you eat from Jack Stack? We had burnt ends. So we had to order from Jack Stack because the first place that we ordered from had the weird delivery issue, and Jack Stack was close and open. I don't know how it ranks on the stuff. Would you rather have to face Aragog and his giant family or Arachne and her tests? Can always throw in Shelob from Lord of the Rings, but that's more Kelly speed. I'm familiar with Shelob's work.
Okay, I did have this question that we kind of zoomed through when we were talking about like Annabeth just burning all of the little spiders.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think those are Arachne's children in the same way that like Shelob, or are they just like random spiders that she can control?
I would guess they're her children, but I don't know. My instinct is, I obviously have not read to see how this duel goes down with Arachne, but I feel like I would pick her over the other ones just because I didn't like how big the Acromantula's kids were, and that was scary. And then Shelob, I don't know, from the scenes in Lord of the Rings, like, it's not a fan. So I feel like I would go with Arachne just because, like, if tests are the major component, I feel like I could do some tests. What about you?
I might go with just like Shelob because it seems just like a more straightforward combat rather than like the psychological element or the like also the weaving that seems like, I don't know, complicated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. All right, we'll do one final question to close it out. So many questions are, where did you get barbecue from? So many questions. Okay, great. Oh, perfect. This is a great way to end it. So this is from Patrick. The question is, give us your wildest prediction of how the Annabeth versus Arachne battle goes down.
Pass.
Yeah, naturally. Trapdoor stays intact. Okay, let me see. Oh, man, if I gotta think of how it goes down. And I'm gonna obviously just like look up so I don't see anyone's face to see if I'm right or laughably wrong. It feels like we're in the room and we've got the suspended statue. She has to get the statue with her. I feel like rather than there be like a new test or something, she doesn't want to just kill Annabeth, right? Because the real thing was she wants to like sacrifice her and make her like the greatest sacrifice. So I feel like rather than trying to attack Annabeth, she might be trying to like web Annabeth up, like get her wrapped up and stuff. So I feel like Arachne will be utilizing web stuff to try and like subdue Annabeth. But then Annabeth is not only going to have to be trying to, I don't think she can like best Arachne in combat. So I feel like she's going to need to do something to vanquish her. And she can kind of two birds, one stone it, where like if she frees the statue and gets it into a point where like there could be some sort of chasm for Arachne to fall into, I feel like Annabeth will do something where maybe she's using her dagger to like intentionally try and like break the statue free. Maybe she like utilizes cool physics abilities to see like maybe she finds a way where like there is a part that won't break and be into nothingness. So she can like break the statue free to where it would like swing or move over into like a safe spot. But then that would also like present a chasm for Arachne to fall into. And she's like cutting the web so that Arachne like falls through like a big gap. She's in the pit and then the statue's kind of safe. And then Annabeth's like, okay, now from here, how do I get the statue out of here?
That's next chapter's problem.
Yeah, that's next chapter problem. But that's what I thought. Who knows how right or wrong I will be. But I do know that this was a blast of a show. Thank you all so much for coming out. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming to the show and making it happen. I know there's probably a bunch of people that came from far away too. I saw some mentions of Wichita in here and all that. So thank you to anyone who traveled. Give it up to Michael for being an incredible guest in both acts. Give it up to the entire team here at Record Bar Sound Hospitality, helping us out with our food delivery that showed up halfway through the first act. Everyone here has been fantastic, so give it up to the whole team here. I very much appreciate it. And then also, of course, shout out to Kelly for watching the baby back in New York, making this all feasible so that I could go out on tour and make this show happen to finally come to Kansas City. So give it up to Kelly for facilitating that. I would love to stay and talk more, but we do have to get off. We are past time, but I really appreciate it. So we will close out this. I hope to return. I would love to come back, but until then, I'll see you later. Thanks so much for coming out, everybody.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of The News Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Glow. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brendan Krugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you can't get enough of the show, you can go to thenewsolympian.com/Patreon for bonus episodes, bonus content, ad-free episodes, a whole bunch of fun stuff. If you want to interact with the community around the show, you can check out the Discord, which is available to all patrons, or we're on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And we've got a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. You can also show your love for TNO by getting TNO merch at thenewsolympian.com/merch. Of course, want to give a huge shout out to our producer level patrons, Kelce Gillespie, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Sam Ruby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Mick Walters, Grace, Ginger Spursboy, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jackson, Kit Kat Crumbs, Jim Jam Koopy, Andrea, not Andrea, Jordan Ray, Nico's Black, Vespa, Zayden Wintergate, and Terry Rothfuzz. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth is essential for podcast growth. You can tell a friend directly, say, hey, there's this Percy Jackson podcast I think you would like, check it out. You could leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using, or you could just talk about the show on social media. All these things really do help. I really appreciate anyone who has done so in the past, and I appreciate anyone who will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and hope you tune into our next episode where we'll be covering chapters 37 through 39 of The Mark of Athena with Morgan Danielle, aka Imagine Matrix. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mixo here in the auxiliary studio. Currently, I have one of the little one's toys. It's like a little walking toy that has helped her in her quest towards walking, which has been going fantastically. But there's some little like toys and stuff on this walker. Like there's little like gears you can turn, and then a little flap book you can flip with letters and pictures and stuff. Then there's a crank, like a key. There's a little like slot puzzle kind of deal. And then there's numbers that go up and down. There's a little ball you can spin. And then there's little letters on spinny wheels you can spin to spell words. There's also have numbers too, so you can do words and numbers and stuff. That was a pretty good ASMR Mike segment, I'm not gonna lie. Thank you so much for listening.